Good morning. My name is Christina Shea, and I'm here to tell you guys a story that'll hopefully be beneficial. It's the story of me and my fiance's life together. Now, I should start from the beginning. Me and my fiance had been together in total over 8 years. We started in middle school, 7th grade. Crazy times, really. Um, and we had dated all through high school. Well, most of high school. We broke up sophomore year because parents, they just didn't want us to be together. Well, my parents in specific, but it's a completely different story. Yeah, so after 2 years, we finally got back together, and we decided that we wanted to live together. I mean, he proposed immediately, which is natural. We were in love, and we still are. Even through all the hard times, we're still very in love. That's the one thing that's kept me going. But anyway, that's not what the story's about. This story is about the dangers of roommates. Yeah, probably more than I could ever expect know what I'm talking about. But we needed a place to stay. I was living with friends, and he was living in Orlando. He decided to move to Sarasota for me. Well, Braden, to be more exact, for me. So we told his mother what was going on, and his mom was like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you again, and I'm trying to get out of my house. Do you want to do you want to live in my old house? I paid it off for the month. You can stay there till you figure out what to do." And we were like, yes, yes, we want to stay there. So we moved in. I'm not going to use original names, so let's call his best friend Sam and the girl Paula. So while we start moving in, Sam decides he wants to try and live with us. Sam is my fiance's best friend. Like, they called each other brothers. They were tight. Bromance to the extreme. So naturally I was like, okay, well, sure. Sam then brings this girl, whom I didn't know, my fiance didn't know, and Sam really didn't know. Sam and Paula were working at a retirement home. Well, the reason why I ultimately, because it was my word that went, I ultimately said yes, it was okay because we had gotten a call from Sam one day saying that Paula was being beaten and she needed to get out of her house. Now, knowing my own fair share of abuse, I ultimately said that's not okay and absolutely she can stay with us, but it's only for a month. We don't even know what we're going to do after this month. They were like, okay, cool. We go get this girl from her house, bring her dog. There's more stories about that. It gets so much better. And we move in. The first few weeks it was going great. You know, we were all working. It was wonderful. Everything was going great. It was like out of a fairy tale, and we were all living together and we were happy. Well, towards the end of the month, we start noticing some problems with Paula and Sam. One of which being that they fought a lot. They didn't really get along very well, unless they were, having sex. We really started noticing things go downhill when we found out that Paula was a stripper. And I'm not knocking on strippers. I personally was one for a while. And honestly, it's a hard job. And I know that no woman does it because she wants to. So, go you ladies. But she had been coming home. She loved to drink. She would get so drunk that she would, start fights and cry in the kitchen. And so naturally we worried about her. We're like, hey, we understand you've been through some stuff, but you gotta stop drinking. And that ultimately incurred more fights and more fights. And ultimately she ended up fighting a lot with my fiance. They didn't like each other at all. But, there was that. So, kind of towards the end of the month, I get the bright idea, hey, why don't we rent this house? What we didn't know was that It was kind of like a duplex. I don't know if that's the word, but it's a big house that they split right down the middle. And we were on the bigger side. Well, we had one bedroom and one bathroom that just weren't being used, so we didn't need all that space, and it was too much for us to afford. So we talked to the landlord, and we're like, hey, I know that you guys have a family on the other side that's interested in the side. Is it okay if we just swap with them and we rent the other side? And of course, the landlord was down with it. She was like, yeah, yeah, that sounds great. That would work out perfectly. So I sat Sam and Paula down, and I was like, "Are you guys gonna be okay? Because you've been fighting a lot. Stuff's been going kind of crazy. We're gonna sign a lease. It would be $250 for everyone to live in the house. You guys are gonna stay together, right?" And they reassured me, "Oh, everything's fine. It's all dandy. We're okay." So we move into the new house. We sign the lease, and about 2 weeks into living in the new house, we find out that Paula is pregnant. Yeah, exciting, right? That's what happens when four teenagers live in a house together. Well, she was like 22, but young. And so, yeah, we she was pregnant. And this is where I will always support Paula. I don't like Paula anymore at all. In fact, she is one of my least favorite people because of what she did to me and my fiance and how she left. And it really hurt. But here's where I will always support Paula on. What Sam told her to do when he found out that she was pregnant, because Sam at the time was only 19. He told her she needed to get an abortion or he would leave. And that's never okay. And gentlemen, if you ever get a girl pregnant, you say that you have no longer become a man. But that's beside the point. She was so hurt by this, she went on a wild drug and alcohol spree, and we didn't see her for 3 days. I got worried, and so I called her after 3 days. I was like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. I know that you and Sam didn't leave on good terms. They were still together, though. You need to come home so I can see you and make sure that you're okay. Naturally, she's out of her mind, so she starts fighting with me. I'm like, look, I'm not going to argue with you. You can come home and we can talk this out like adults, or you could not come home at all. She came home and she was so coked and drugged and out of her mind. And I was worried about her. Because at that point we were friends. Our periods had synced. It was the whole female 9 yards. But I was worried about her. And then Sam decided that he was going to start a fight with her. I don't really know what went down, but they broke up that night. And that night ended with her laying on my bed, so coked and mollied out that she thought that she was going to die. And me and my fiance sleeping on the carpet, trying to watch her all night long. And that was one of the scariest nights I've ever had. One of them. So a few months go by. Sam moves out, goes back with his brother, doesn't pay his rent at all. This is where me and my fiance's worries started to come in. Because our bank accounts got messed up when we had to pay everything. We didn't know the first light bill was going to be so expensive, and we had to get the lights turned on. So my fiance paid the $300 and something that it costed. It overdrafted his account. I helped with Sam's half of the rent and my half of the rent. That was like $4 or $5 something. Paula had her $250. We were like, okay, whatever. At least she's showing us something. This went on for a few months. Paula started getting increasingly worse. She left her job at the nursing home. She stopped going to the strip club, which was good, but then she started making porn. It went downhill. And again, a long story short, it went downhill so badly that the night me and my fiance decided we had to go somewhere else was when she and her new boyfriend, we're gonna call him Rick, they were, drinking, doing drugs. I kicked them out of the house because they were doing coke in the house, and I was like, no coke in the house. Um, and they got into an altercation with the neighbor. For some reason, she thought that he had tried to hit her dog, even though her dog was nowhere near and the guy was just turning into his driveway. I don't know how it went down, but anyway, she thought he tried to hit her dog. So she went over and started fighting him. I went and got her. Me and Rick went and got her. We got her in the house. At this point, I didn't know that she had obtained a firearm. Yes, a firearm. She thought it would be a good idea to send a message, and so they ultimately took we had a little carnival game, the test of strength where you hit the bell and it rings up and it's like, hey, you're strong. Well, it was in the shape of a clown. So they took that and they took it across the street to a construction site, and they decided to shoot a few rounds off. Or not rounds, but a few shots. I don't remember how many were shot, but they shot a few shots. And naturally, the cops got called. Well, at that point, my fiance had just gotten home from work, and we saw this going on, and we're like, okay, this is getting serious. We need to leave. The neighbors were scared. We were scared. We got in our car, and we left. Before we left, we left through the neighbor's yard. Not through the yard. There was like a little driveway that led back out to the street. We stopped and we're like, hey, she's shooting a gun. We don't know what to do. We're leaving. Go into your house. Make sure your kids are safe. And he was like, okay, thank you so much. I get it. You guys are scared. Go. We go to his aunt's house, scared out of our minds. And, she settles us down. We stop by his mom's. We're like, hey, we're okay. This is what happened. We get back to the house at like 2, 3 in the morning. Nobody is there. Our vents are ripped down, and we go and talk to the neighbors, and the neighbors like, yeah, there was a ton of cops here, blah, blah, blah. And so we're like, oh my God. So go to sleep. We wake up the next morning. I call law enforcement and have them search my house because I don't know what was stashed there. We screw the vents back in. We start putting what little life we have together back together. My fiance goes to work. I stay home because at that point I lost my job. So money was starting to get really tight. So I was putting a life back together. Rick and Paula show up later that day. I had to burp. Rick and Paula show up later that day. And about 10:30, my fiance gets home. Well, they're still doing coke and acting crazy, so I'm like, all right, go to leave. I don't care. My fiance gets home and police show up. And this is when we knew that these people were never going to help us, or they weren't friends. Police showed up, knocked on the door, and said, hey, we noticed that your car was back. Why were you shooting the gun to my fiance? Imagine our confusion. We weren't even there, so why would they think that we were shooting the gun? Or more specifically, my fiance. Weird, right? Not really. Because a few days prior, Paula had asked me to drive her to the gas station nearby, and I was like, alright, whatever, sure, fine. I got nothing to do. So we take my fiance's car. I asked him first. I always do. I take my fiance's car, and we go to the gas station. She comes out with 2 24-packs of beer that she didn't pay for. And tries to get in my car. Luckily, the store stopped her, but I was speaking to a police officer, and I said, hey, I didn't know she was going to do this. I'm really sorry. We tried to pay for the beer. Nothing worked. She already tried to steal it. She already spit on one of the people, so she was going to jail. But luckily, that police officer recognized me. And he decided to... So that night when they showed up at my house, questioning my fiance about why he had shot the gun and almost taking him to jail. He recognized me. He's like, oh, I know who I'm dealing with. Look, I didn't believe her the other night. I didn't believe her last night when she said that you guys were shooting it. We just need to get into the house. So we gave them our statements separately, of course. We let them into the house. I told them where the gun was because I knew where they kept it, and the gun was taken by law enforcement. Well, things just kept going downhill, and at this point, me and my fiance had no money. We had no money. Paula had gotten bailed out of jail, but then was put right back in because her and Rick broke up. Some stuff happened. Her and Rick broke up, and so she got sent back to jail. Well, not that she had been helping pay anything, but at that point we couldn't afford the house, so we had to leave. It was getting dangerous, we had to leave. So a month goes by, Paula shows back up and robs us. She gets into, I knew that she still had a key, but she gets into the house. She takes everything that we had. My fiance had a bunch of guitars, we had a TV, we had a lot of stuff that was stolen. She stole the rest of our money, and she ultimately left us with nothing. So I'm gonna end this video by saying we're not making this GoFundMe, and we're not doing all this because we're lazy. I have 2 jobs, but I'm in that weird little waiting period up here in Orlando where they gotta wait for all my information to come back, so I haven't started work yet. My fiance lost his ID while in Sarasota, so he can't get a job. And this is our fault. This part is our fault. He had gotten a few speeding tickets that he neglected, and now his license is suspended. And we need help. And I really hope that this video, this isn't just for us. I hope that this video helps somebody, anyone in the same boat, in the same situation. Just watch who you rent with. Because even best friends, like my fiance's best friend, he really messed us up, and he left this girl just to ruin our lives. So watch who you rent with, and watch who you rent with. I really hope this video helped, and like I said, anything will help. Thank you so much, guys. Christy out.